Good morning, YouTube. Yeah, I'm saying this morning because it's morning my time, or good evening wherever you are in this world. And welcome to my thoughts and opinions towards AEW Dynamite. I know I was a bit later than normal when I do my reviews and my thoughts and opinions towards it. It's because due to personal reasons. So I hope you understand that. And thank you ever so much for the 23 or 24 subscribers I've got here on YouTube now. Thank you ever so much. You guys mean the world to me when I talk about professional wrestling. You know, I've spoiled you guys with 2 other uploads over earlier on this evening. Now, I want to say to every one of you guys is that one thing that really baffles me, that I want to actually say this as an honorary mention, is has WWE rekindled their thoughts towards NXT? And you may think, why am I talking about this? Because I want to point this out, that WWE took NXT off their Worlds Collide special, PLE, whatever you want to class it as. Took it off completely off them. Now all of a sudden you literally are building up matches for that very moment in time of professional wrestling. Okay. You know, you are literally, it seems like you're slapping matches together. You know, that's just my honest take on it. And with Stephanie Valkyria and Jordan Grace and Ricky Starks teased to go towards the main roster, I just want to point this out, right? I did a video about the Evolution pay-per-view. WWE needs to up their game with the women's division. I don't mean add new members to it. Because at the moment, I feel like you don't know what you're doing already with the women you've already got on the main roster. That's just me being honest with you. Because it's so bizarre that you think moving 2 women that has been great on the NXT brand, even though Jordan Grace needed a bit of polishing, that's why she went to NXT, but you are rushing these to the main roster. Stephanie Valkyria, I think she's been there a year now, if I recall. She's been there long enough, don't get me wrong, to go to the main roster. There's other women that have been overlooked because of the likes of Jordan Grace coming in and so on. You know, when you literally made the person that you faced, Stephanie Valkyria, as your champion, it's a big giveaway. And I feel like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind Stephanie Valkyria. Don't mind the likes of Jordan Grace. I don't mind them. But that's not what I mean by up their game. What I mean, the way the books, the way the storylines and so on, it just baffles me to think, okay, that's acceptable, moving these women up when you are doing a crappy format on your weekly products, on the Raw and SmackDown. You know, some things stand out, don't get me wrong. I've already talked about my Raw and SmackDown reviews. I just want to say this, that is not up in the game. And as well, putting Ricky Starks on the main roster, I think it's far too soon. Far too soon. You know, people may complain that he wasn't used much in AEW, but he was. Because he was Cody's buddy. And that's why I feel like he's getting all the privileges, because he's Cody's buddy. But I look at the bigger picture of this and I'm thinking, okay, moving to the main roster, but you're not doing anything with the current roster that you've already got. You know? But when I say this, I'm not hating on WWE. I'm just expecting what I'm expecting from a company that you want people to spend their money. But it doesn't seem that way, does it? Does it? It doesn't seem that entity that you want to get from professional wrestling. You know, even though they don't want to be classed as a wrestling company, even though they are a wrestling company. So, who are you actually providing for? Are you actually really providing wrestling to the masses week in, week out, but you're not actually delivering on storylines wise? You know, if you are sports entertainment, make it entertaining. Putting these women and the likes of Ricky Starks to the main roster is not going to elevate anything on your main roster when you can't get it right in the first place. You know, it just baffles me that you randomly move possibly these 3 wrestlers up to the main roster and you're not going to do that much with them. You're not going to elevate anything. You're not going to give them anything decent to be with. You know, it just worries me. That's why I feel sorry for the likes. People are in NXT at the moment because they're actually hoping to get that chance to be on a Raw or a SmackDown, and a lot of it, I feel like, no, it shouldn't be done. But anyway, on to Dynamite. I just wanted to say that. I wanted to get it off my chest because I was going to do a separate video into it, but there's no point because people will think I'm hating on WWE when I'm not. I'm just saying it as a wrestling fan that I feel like you literally need to... there's not that much given towards the weekly product at the moment. You don't need to try and inject more fresh faces to the roster to improve what you already got. You need to improve your scripts. You need to improve your storytelling. You need to improve what you've already got in place. You know, I don't get why you've randomly put Roxanne Perez in with the likes of Judgment Day. Doesn't make any sense. Just to make it look like Dom's a cheat. And obviously Finn Balor's spicing it up. That's not entertainment. And as well, I forgot to mention on my Raw thoughts. You know when you had the backstage segments between obviously the War Raiders or the Viking Warriors? I can't remember what their actual name is. I do apologise. But then they were doing a backstage skit with the comedy thing. It was a Netflix plug again. You know? It feels like you are forcing the humour that Vince McMahon used to give us back in 06, 07. But that was naturally given. This is just a given spot to promote another Netflix product. You know? Secretly endorsing a new show or a live special and so on. Doesn't make sense. You know, out the blue. But anyway, on to this week's Dynamite. Then you've got the likes of Shane Strickland, Swerve Strickland, or whatever you want to class him as, Hangman Adam Page, Will Ospreay. He's pretty much, Will Ospreay's trying to make a hoots between obviously the likes of Hangman Adam Page working together with the likes of, like being a peace offering. You know, a peacemaker between obviously Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. Now, this is lovely how they've intertwined an old feud with these two people, you know, that Will's trying to calm him down because he's respected the hell out of Swerve Strickland. Then you've literally got him respecting the likes of Hangman Page. But the worlds have collided, no pun intended, but the worlds have collided like in a three-way. You know, and he says, I'm not going to work together with you if you want to work with him, and I don't want to work with him, etc., etc., etc. All I can say is, please lead to a three-way match or a triple threat between these participants. You know, we've already had a classic match at Double or Nothing this past weekend. And if this is on a TV special, I'm happy for it. You know, if it's on Fyter Fest or if it's on Summer Blockbuster or something like that, a three-way between these matches will be clinic. Absolute clinic. And I feel like it's necessary to be done because if they're not going to coincide, how much in depth this could lead, it's like an onion. I feel like Shrek when I put this reference. There's so many layers to the story. And could you have told any better story for the last few months between Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page? And then years upon years upon years that these two have never seen eye to eye, Shane Strickland and or Swerve Strickland, whatever, with Hangman Adam Page. You would not have seen that. But the way I've said in my recent view, Will Ospreay is feuded with these two. Sorry, Hangman Adam Page is technically feuded with these two, even though he's thanked Will Ospreay, but he would never forgive Shane Strickland for what he did. What you expect? He burnt his house down, you know, and that's had so many layers to that storyline, even though it's had a long build of jeopardy towards the likes of the Young Bucks helping out Hangman Adam Page going through the way it is, and he wanted to change Swerve Strickland wanted him to admit it where Hangman Adam Page. You know, is that true what they've just said? You know, this is long builded story and I'm intrigued really which way it's going to go. Please be a triple threat or a three-way between these three participants, because it'll be golden. We know it's going to be golden because you look but that's what I mean. It just leaves it so wide open. And I'm really intrigued. I'm already invested to see where this lands. You know, I'm hoping it's not just for Fyter Fest. I'm hoping it leads up to Summer Blockbuster. I think that's before All In. And I feel like it's necessary to have. But will it lead alternatively? There could be another avenue where you literally have Hangman Adam Page already with Jon Moxley. But then you all of a sudden written Shane Strickland in. You know, All In. You know? This is proven foolproof how great at the moment AEW storyline is with storylines. You know, because it elevates both of the characters. All three characters, don't get me wrong. You know. And then after that, we have the likes of Jon Moxley, Gabe Kidd, Maria versus Mark Briscoe, Mike Speedball Mike Bailey, and Willow Nightingale. This match was actually a good opener of the card. Moxley got the victory on this, and as well as the referee stopping the match. And I just want to actually say this. I tell you one thing. When it annoyed me when I put out a video that someone literally said this is going to be the worst move of Gabe Kidd's career. No, it's elevated it even more. Because I know what Gabe Kidd's capable of. And I'm loving him as a monster heel. A menace to society. You know, I'm loving what he has to offer for the AEW fan base. You know, and to see him working with the likes of Jon Moxley to mould him to be a monster, I'm all for this. You know, going forward. It was a great opener. Then out of the blue, this is one thing I want to talk about. When I say about women's wrestling up there and like WWE needs to, because AEW's on another level. When we literally had the likes of Megan and Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay and Harley Cameron in a no DQ match. That match was literally, even though Penelope Ford literally got the victory, did we need a match type like this between these four women? No, but we needed it to keep people eyes on the product, what the women's division has to offer in the likes of what we actually have. This is why I feel like they need a tag team division, which I feel like it feels like it's destined to be at some point. You know, that's what excites me. And I feel like this is why AEW can elevate the women to the next level. And then when you look at the way this actually happened, but I feel like this will get overlooked. Right, Harley Cameron busted her nose. She continued on the match. Blood was everywhere. It was brutal to see how bad her nose was. And Anna Jay looked like she had a bit of a broken nose as well. But I just want to point this out. This is why I say AEW women are on another level. It's a prime example when you look at the Anarchy in the Arena match. You had Willow Nightingale going toe-to-toe with Maria. Yet alone, they were doing brutal spots, let alone she was taking spots from the men. You know, this is why I feel the women in AEW are on another level. And obviously, yeah, Penelope Ford, like I was saying, and thinking he got the victory. But my God, I got a feeling this will get overlooked. You know, but you got to understand, right? Harley Cameron's, yeah, fair enough, one of the fan favourites for obvious reasons. And her sense of humour. She's cotton comedy. She's great on the mic, like singing-wise. And she's bringing a different element to her. She's literally showing what she can do. Proves that she can take it solidly. You know, and look at her nose. if you go back and watch this match, and you see her nose pissing with blood, literally everywhere, and yet she still wanted to continue on that match, that proves she's got the heart to be a professional wrestler. She's no quitter. You know, and that's why I feel like it was the turning point, I would say, with the women as of late within the WWE, I would say, was when Becky broke her nose. That made her elevate to the next level. You know, that made a stratosphere to become the man. You know, and that's why fans were backing her. You know, even though Holly Cameron's only got a small fan base compared to like some of the women in the likes of AEW, I feel like this will be overlooked, but it should make the same impact when Becky broke her nose. You know, and that's just me being honest with you, because me, if I broke my nose, I would want to stop. I'll whimper out. It proves how strong-minded she really is to do what she does. You know, I don't blame them for doing that sort of match type. Then we had the trios match. Opps versus Frat Party. They started tonight. Okay, fair enough. I was not too thrilled about this match. Just a standard squash match. You know, I wasn't too that enthused with it. But then obviously we had, after that, we literally had the likes of, how to put it? We had the likes of Jamie Hayter and Thickerer, if that's how you pronounce her name. Light Skin Guy Ocean, big shout out to you. Thank you for pointing me in the right direction, because I was just getting clarification before this review, because he talks highly of her. You know, and she made me turn my head when she attacked Jamie Hayter. I was like, what's happened to my screen? What's turned off? Who's debuting? You know, I just wish there was actually a more, how you put it, crowd reaction. You know, I was literally like, ooh. The when she turned around and did that spider thing. But that's what I mean. They're elevating the women in their division, which is actually fantastic to see. I'm intrigued what this woman can actually do. You know, I've not actually looked up any, but I just want to say that was actually a good thing. Then you had Adam Cole versus Kyle Fletcher for the TNT Championship. Basically, Cole won. Kyle Fletcher by disqualification, remains on the tag team titles. To be honest, right, with this match, I'm hoping they're building something. Because I think they're building something special. Now, because quite honestly, I feel like at the moment, how to put it in a nicer term, Adam Cole needs to drop that belt to Kyle Fletcher at some point, and it needs to be done. Because I feel like that Kyle Fletcher needs a belt right now. He needs that elevation, even though, yes, he's elevated against a breakout star within the last year. And I feel like he's dropped a bit, but he needs a belt to give him that credibility. You know, I think he had the TNT Championship. I'm not 100% sure if he's had it. Or some sort of belt. Then we had the fatal four-way contender qualifier between Brody King and Josh Alexander. I just want to say great storytelling in this match. Absolutely fantastic. Am I surprised that Josh Alexander hadn't got a victory yet as such? No. Am I happy that the likes of Brody King is in this Fatal 4-Way next week, if I recall, for the 4-hour special? Absolutely. This match was actually really good. It was old school for me, and I'm really excited to see what actually comes out from this. Then we literally have, for the first time, face-to-face with Mercedes Moné and no other than Timeless Toni Storm. I want to say this was cracking. I really cannot wait to see them two face off All In. I really can't. Because, quite honestly, I do respect women's wrestling. I want to say this. I want this to headline the event itself. That's just me being honest. I want them to headline All In, despite what despite WWE for doing what they've done, put the all women's pay-per-view on the same thing. This will be a cheap dig towards them as well, I know, but they haven't mentioned them. But they've mentioned them, if you know what I mean. They don't pass it on TV or anything. Fans have told them numerous times they shouldn't be mentioning WWE on their product, etc., etc., etc. But this will be a good one. I don't recall if I ever saw Toni Storm when she was Sasha Banks. I don't recall them facing each other in WWE. I don't recall it. I could be wrong, but I do admire this because it's got such a good build for it, and to say the longevity of the story towards All In is going to be interesting. I'm hoping this main events. I really want them to main event, but overall, tonight's show was quieter than some shows that we've actually had, but we've had some interesting spots, don't get me wrong. But that's all I've got to say, guys, is another good show by Dynamite. AEW and Dynamite. They're on a roll at the moment. I'm really intrigued to see where certain storylines go. But until next time, guys, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you'll be notified anytime when I do any videos. And as well, you check out all my other content. And I want to say this. Thank you ever so much again for tuning in. Catch you guys soon.